Today's guest had an idea for a business that I also had around the same time. The difference is he had the courage to action it. Whereas me, well, mine's still on the drawing board. And now I'm a client of his.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, but you, so much more importantly, you're a motivated business owner and you are ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. If it's your first time round, welcome. If you're back for the 315th time, then love your work. Hey, big show today. Soren of Work Club. He is a leader in creating amazing workspaces that you just can't wait to get to. I also challenge business owners who say they don't need to do any marketing. It's almost laughable. More on that later. And I help listener Stacey decide if she should be posting her videos to YouTube or Facebook. Yeah, big show. It's made possible by the very good folk at Web Central, who can help you attract new customers with their managed Facebook advertising package, and by Cornerstone Business Solutions, an Aussie-owned offshoring business helping time-poor business owners get more done without spending a fortune. Hey, as per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Support for this show comes from Web Central, who are pretty damn good at driving traffic and leads your way. Verity Ma, their marketing head honcho, recently drew an interesting analogy for what a website without traffic is like.
Your website is a billboard in the desert if you don't have any traffic coming to it. So similar to having an advertisement out in the Sahara Desert, if you don't have any traffic driving past it, then people aren't going to know anything about your business. It's a bit of a waste of time. So yes, it's important, and the first step is to get that billboard, which is your website. But past that, you need to actually get found, and then from getting found, get leads into your business. So you need to get traffic or cars driving past your website to actually know what you do, what your business offers, and how you're different to your competitors. Because your competitors are out there getting traffic to their websites.
Do camels count as traffic? Web Central, helping your website get found fast. Visit webcentral.com.au for exclusive listener offers. Hey, big thank you to everyone who tweeted Virgin Australia saying how much they're looking forward to listening to this show in flight. If you haven't caught up on the news, the little old Small Business Big Marketing show will be available from 35,000 feet on all Virgin Australia flights starting in August 2016. And it's never too late to send those good folk at Virgin Australia a little tweet telling them how excited you are. All right, coming up, I help listener Stacey decide whether she's better off posting her videos to Facebook or YouTube. But first, let's meet today's guest in Soren of Work Club. Now, he hails from Denmark, the design capital of the world, nonetheless. He's had 20 years' experience in the furniture business, and I've got to tell you, team, he loves furniture. Wait till you hear the passion in his voice when he talks about how it impacts on our working life. He's also a master at creating spaces that you just can't wait to be in. In fact, he continues to consult to rather large businesses at the top end of town, including Google, Deloitte, and Facebook on workplace optimization and trends. Now, he's launched the membership-based Work Club business in Melbourne and Sydney for people wanting a beautiful place to work, and boy, has he achieved that. So much so that I am now a member. This interview took place at the Melbourne Work Club. It's a beautiful place. We go into some detail about the space during our chat. Suffice to say that it occupies an entire floor of a beautiful old Collins Street building. Overseas listeners, Collins Street, very nice street in Melbourne CBD. And the floor comprises a variety of spaces to do business, to socialise, or just to chill. That is always done on the most beautiful of furniture. So I started off by asking Soren, what excites him?
Oh, a lot of things. I get excited about this table, thanks I'm working.
You do. I've heard you speak to...
touching it, it's just I can't help myself. Every time I come in here, I need to touch it.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. And I've heard you a number of times today even mentioning this table to people with some amount of passion in your voice. Now, this is audio, so we're going to have to be kind of quite descriptive in the way we talk about this. But describe this table to people and what excites you about it. This is the boardroom of Work Club, yeah?
Yes. So it's a timber table, very rocket-looking timber table, 4 meters long, 1.25 wide for the technical dimensions. It's about half a tonne in weight.
Wow.
And it's old reclaimed timber from the old Danish ferry wharves in Denmark. So it's more than 100 years old. It's so dense, it's no longer categorized as timber.
Really?
And it's got a lot of history. I think it's beautiful. I want to touch the timber every time I'm in here. But that's it, products, if you like. Everything that's in here, it excites me, but it's not what excites me the most. So about Work Club, it is more about the community and the diversity.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the whole idea, and that's how the idea started.
Well, tell me about that time. What were you doing when the idea for Work Club knocked you on the head?
Well, quite random, really, but it's sort of 12 years ago the idea started, and it started. So my background is actually in working with spaces. So I've done a lot of conceptual work through to delivery of offices for Google, Microsoft, sort of bigger global firms globally. So I have a view around spaces.
You're not responsible for those primary coloured slides that they have at the Googleplex, are you?
No, I'm not, and I'm happy to say I'm not.
They're much more IKEA than they are Soren.
But I've got a view and I've got an opinion about spaces. But that's actually it's not the angle that I came from. It was more, for a long time I've had this theory around Leonardo DaVinci.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody smile a bit when I say that first, but it's the short version. He lived in Florence in the early Renaissance time.
It's my favourite city in the world.
Mine too.
Mm-hmm.
And where, that was the centre of the world in terms of new ideas, lots of cultures coming together, all these new inventions. And he at the time was very calculative almost, at least very conscious about who he surrounded himself with in his local network. Because he felt diversity elevated the quality of his works. So he wrote a lot about it. He was very conscious about it, and I guess
he was quite gregarious in the way he basically had a tribe of people follow him around of his choosing, didn't he?
Yeah. But he wanted that diversity, and I mean, this is a short version, but that always resonated with me. And I think if you fast forward to today, the relevance is that all the disruption, all the changes that are happening across industries, within industries, are creating a lot of questions for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really matter who we are, whether you're working from home alone, you're a small firm, you're a medium firm, or you're a large firm, for that matter. If you work in isolation to some extent, you're less likely to find answers.
Hallelujah to that, because I I've been working from home for a number of years, had a home studio, and we've just moved. The home studio that I have now isn't as good, so Work Club kind of addresses that, and you've created a place that you're actually quite excited about coming to.
Well, I'm excited myself, and in some ways I've sort of created it. But for me, it was around that diversity, and really, what happens if you get outside of your normal tribe, network, industry. To me, it's a fact. You increase the probability of getting a perspective, at least, or a spark that's very different to what you would normally get in your normal network. So the original idea was, what if I could create this place, with all these different people represented, from all these different industries. And then, given my background in space, I start talking, well, how would that look? How would that be functional? Because it needs to be, for the conservative end of town, as well for the creatives and everything in between. Mm-hmm. So how would it look and feel? And that really became the supporting part of that diversity.
Did you get excited that when this idea came to you? Were you working for someone else at the time?
I was working for someone else.
Uh-huh.
So this was 2005 or something like that. So
which is quite back then. I mean, I remember writing a piece on co-working spaces probably 10 years ago. Yeah. They weren't here in Australia. No. The ones that I was seeing popping up were in London and New York.
Yes.
In fact, they were even niching down back then. There were some for authors. There were some for mothers. There were some for entrepreneurs. But wow, you weren't living here obviously back then.
No, and I was traveling a lot globally, and I saw one of the first co-working places. I think it was 2005 in New York, and I loved the idea of sharing a space, but. The two things that I noticed was that it was very few industries represented. Mm-hmm. It was very narrow.
Yeah, right. So any one space might have a whole bunch of entrepreneurs or a whole bunch of lawyers.
Yeah, and to me that was kind of just a space. I felt it needed to do more than that. And then it looked like the furniture looked like it was from IKEA or sort of So
hang on, IKEA. You don't like IKEA?
Oh, I'm Danish.
Right. So the competitors.
Slightly, but all good natured, of course.
I get it. This table would not flak pack very well at all, right?
No, it wouldn't. So I mean that's how it started, and of course.
So it's taken you 11 years. No, it took you about 9 years to bring the first work club to life in Sydney. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. And it was kind of one of these things where.
Why so long?
Oh, I left my corporate life. I started my own business.
Yeah.
And then I had a few failures as well, and then I thought, I said to my wife, I've got to have to do this because it's just, it was
the idea that kept coming back.
It kept coming back and said, I've got to do it. And after a not so pleasant experience with a joint venture, that I went into and said, I've got to do something on my own. And
a joint venture to try and bring the idea to life of Work Club?
No, it was a different business, different industry.
Tell me about one of the failures you had. Was there one that kind of hurt more than others?
Yeah, there's a massive one. Actually.
Oh, okay. Can we go there?
Well, we can, sure.
I love it when someone takes us inside a failure they've had. Before Soren shares his, here's a word from a business that will do everything they can to help you succeed. Support for this show comes from Cornerstone Business Solutions, an Aussie-owned, family-run outsourcing business based in the Philippines, who can reduce your running costs by up to 90%. I asked founder David Warren to share one killer tip that would ensure any business owner's journey into the world of outsourcing was a successful one.
Build a team. So you can go to eDesk or Freelancer and all those components, and there are individuals there working from home. That has its pros and cons. This world, the secret is building a small team. And you don't have to have a big team. 2-people team to get started. And then once you've got a small team on the ground in a structured environment, so that small team helps in regards to HR, payroll, IT. Once you've got that small team on the ground and you learn how to communicate and make that team productive, then you've got an ability to scale wherever you want to go.
Cornerstone Business Solutions, where teams mean business. You can book a chat with David today at cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au/consultation.
Get on Timbo's mailing list over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
And now let's get back to Soren of Work Club as he shares a moment in his life that forced him to take a new direction, one that ultimately led to him living his dream.
No, I'm sort of getting over it. It's 4 years ago now, so I can,
What happened?
Yeah. So my background is in furniture industry. And I ended up in 2010 doing a joint venture with the biggest European player in that area and setting up an Asian business where I went in as a 49.9% shareholder.
Just not enough.
No, and I learned that. And they were
listed 0.2 more.
Yeah, but I couldn't because they were listed in Vienna and they were, they needed to consolidate the results, and it was all part of a very long 12-month negotiation process. But I essentially, before that, I was heading up the biggest player in Asia was part of taking them from 30 million to 250 million and growing them to the market leader. So they wanted me, I wanted them. I didn't want to work for anybody. I wanted my own thing, and it seemed to be the perfect marriage.
What happened?
Well, the European business went into financial difficulties,
Right.
and the old man there, the chairman, 72 years old, which I knew very well, and the entire board was removed overnight.
Right.
And one of the loans they couldn't pay back was basically, the bank pulled in covenants, and the biggest bank of Austria ended up taking over the business.
Uh-huh.
And that bank sits on 12% of Austria's GDP, so they're not a minor player.
No.
And overnight they told me that we don't want the joint venture anymore. And at that point I had 7 offices, 100 people.
Oh,
I was
sorry.
doing 30 million, across Asia Pacific. And I said, well, we have an agreement. I'll do my part, and I expect you to do your part. And that was the beginning of a very difficult
Withdrawal.
separation.
So here's the thing. You could have very easily, given you've done work at Google and Facebook and these big companies, you obviously had a good track record in furniture and spaces. It would have been pretty easy for you to go back and work for the man back then.
Definitely.
But this idea around Work Club was so strong.
Yeah, it was a passion, It wasn't. I was convinced that there was value, there was tangible value in being in a space with different people, and looking for those sparks. It's not about being together all the time and collaborating all the time. It's about the 5, 10, 15% of your day or your week where you get an opportunity to do so. And I always felt there was real tangible outcomes in that, but it's hard to determine what those tangible outcomes are without really trying it. So I went out and did my rounds and asked people if they wanted to be part of it, and investing and taking some of the, challenges, financial challenges initially. And I soon realized that for me, it had been a process over so many years of getting to where I were to at that point in terms of how it should look, feel, what it should be doing, and trying to explain that to potential investors who came from it from a very different angle was just impossible. So either I had to do it myself and just try and hustle.
Well, interesting, it was impossible because the way you talk about it now, and we've only just met, but I've heard other people who work in Work Club talk about it, and clearly that's been transferred from your storytelling. It fascinates me that people weren't buying into it. Maybe it was just there were better things. It wasn't an online business. It wasn't the next Facebook. And
yeah, but I think it was hard to put into a box. So people say, is it a co-working place? And I said, no. Well, is it a serviced office? No. Is it a business club? No. Is it a network? No. It's really a combination of all those things. So it was hard, I think, from investors sitting and saying, well, has it got legs? It's just an idea. There's no proof of concept. Yes, there's co-working places out there that's doing really well. There's some versions that are more business club-like that are doing well. But
so for you, what was the biggest? I've got a confession to make, and I'll make it now because 10 years ago, and I've still got the document somewhere on my hard drive of my computer, I wrote a document that said, once I started seeing these co-working spaces in New York and London pop up, I wrote an idea up, which was basically your home office meets Qantas Club. Now, you'll cringe a little bit at that because Qantas Club's not your thing, but maybe, I don't know, here I am judging. I don't know, what's your thing? But it was exactly that. But I didn't have the courage to bring that to life. And I reckon I revisit it once a year. So what fascinates me about what you've done here is that you have created a space that feels like home, yet has additional things that you don't get at home.
And I think what really tricked it was that failure, in the furniture, because if it hadn't been for that, I would have been steaming on and doing all that. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But the space is incredibly important. Yeah, the diversity is the most important part. And in Sydney, we've got more than 50 different industries represented. And that's an important part of the application process to ensure that it's not elitist, but once we get 2 or 3 people from one industry, we stop.
Wow.
So that it is about that diversity. We could fill this place very quickly, but that's not, it'll defeat the purpose.
Is that hard as a business owner because effectively what you're doing is knocking back the majority of prospects?
It's very hard, and particularly when cash is important and you're just starting up. It's scary. But I always said to the team, it's like, I don't want to. It's like peeing in your pants. It's nice initially, but then it becomes quite. It's just
smelly
short
and
term.
cold.
Yeah, it's short term. So we've got to think beyond that.
Wow.
And we've got to stay true to what the whole idea is behind what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do that, perhaps we can get these tangible outcomes.
So not only, Soren, are you limiting it to 2 or 3 people per industry, you are then looking at those people in a kind of roundabout judgmental way and going, are they the right people within those? Is there a more appropriate accountant or a more appropriate whatever that we could have in?
That's a sensitive...
They're very sensitive.
Yeah, topic.
How do you walk that line?
It's hard. The first 100 members in Sydney, I met every single one of them. I spent at least 30 minutes with them to try and get an idea of... it's important that our members are not just taking, but they come in with a mindset of giving as well, however small that is. So it is a shared space at the end of the day. And if you come in and treat it as your own space, it's not going to work for the rest of the community. So I think it's very important trying to gauge that from conversations and how sensitive people would be to that and how open and understanding they'll be.
Well, when I speak to franchisors, they always say, it only takes one franchisee to ruin it for the entire other franchisees. One bad marketing attempt or one bad customer service experience, and all of a sudden the whole franchise has got a bad name. So it's a bit like here where you get one wrong person and all of a sudden people are saying, oh yeah, there's a guy or girl who comes in here and they, never shut up, or they do this or they do that. Yeah. So that's
and it's a learning experience as well. I think for Sydney, there's probably a few that we learned was not the perfect fit, but quite quickly, I think the community kind of pushed them out.
Yeah, right.
In a way, so very naturally they kind of just
the
left.
tribe has spoken.
A bit like that, isn't it? Yeah, in a way. But now with Melbourne being new, it's a really important part as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the product, because I want to go into a little bit more detail. I knew you had a passion for furniture. You've spoken about this table. There are some amazing pieces around here, both spaces and pieces of furniture. Maybe talk us through, and again, this is audio, so we're going to have to paint a picture. Is there another couple of pieces or spaces that you just get incredibly excited about?
There's a storage of every piece in here, and in most cases everything is from small factories in Europe or here locally made in Australia, and I know all of them. I know all of the factories, I know all the workshops, I know all of the people making these pieces, and I know how passionate they are about what they do.
That's really important to you, right?
It's very important, and I think it's I value it highly, and I think there's a whole sustainability piece, there's a ethics piece around it. These items in here are going to last for many, many years.
This table's not going anywhere.
No, a chair you're sitting on is 25 years old.
Wow,
it's an old Eames, a vintage chair, but the quality is here. It will last, and it's built to last. And maybe it's a very Danish way of looking at it. It's not luxus. It's not high end. Every middle-class home has got a Hans Wiener chair, or a lot of these pieces you see in here are normal in a everyday house in Denmark.
Yeah, see, in an Australian home, we'd have a Jason recliner rocker. I don't know whether you know what that is, but don't look it up, because you'll think less of me.
But maybe it's a cultural thing where I think it's just I want the timber to be real. Mm-hmm. It is real timber. It's not glossed over with a lot of protection. The leather is raw. When you touch it, there'll be marks. It doesn't matter. That's patina. We love that.
Tell me about one of the rooms that I love the story. When Sophie showed me around this space last week, I call it the interrogation room. I'm sure you have another word for it, but it's a room, listeners, that is quite a small meeting room. It has a round table, which what does that indicate? Round means inclusive.
Yeah,
there's no corners.
Exactly.
So, but what's special about this is it's quite a dark meeting room, and there is a very large light that hangs low over the table, and the entire focus of that light makes you focus on what's going on at the table and not what's going on around you. Have I kind of got that right?
Yeah, it's a very residential feel almost. It sort of draws you into the sense of that.
Draws
table.
you in, yeah.
It's this big dome, rusted dome, gold looking inside. and over this solid African walnut, beautiful dark timber table, and leather chairs around. It could be a dining room, it could be a meeting room, and I love sort of playing with the whole. Is it residential? Is it an office?
Yeah.
Is it
interrogation?
Is it interrogation? What is it?
Poker.
We
could deal the cards.
Well, exactly. And I think the whole thing, work is no longer 9 to 5, right? And the whole idea of spaces just being an office or just being retail or just being, hospitality is just completely going to disappear, I think, in the future. And I've said that for 10 years, for a long time. To me, work club is this blurring lines of yes, it's work, it's anchored in work because most people work from here. More and more of our members actually socialize as well from here because the club element is important. But it's got a little bit of retail experience, it's got a bit of that home feel, residential feel, it's got a bit of the hospitality feel as well. So it is no longer just work 9 to 5, but you kind of seamlessly work through the different whether it's retail, you want to do a bit of retail, we have that here, and those experiences I think are important.
Let me just paint the picture for listeners. Hold that thought, Soren. And so from a retail point of view, Soren is selling beautiful leather-bound wallets and iPad covers and journals and things. There is a social component which has a very large space that is dedicated to sitting around, drinking a cup of tea, having a glass of wine. There's couches, there's an outdoor area, which is an absolute bonus when you're in the middle of Collins Street.
Yeah.
So there are so many aspects to it. And, I find myself, where I think today I've been here about 3 hours and I've sat in 4 different locations, and it just keeps it interesting.
That's the key, and the fact that you move around. So, it doesn't matter what the chair can do from an ergonomic perspective, quite frankly. You can adjust it 1,000,000 times and it's still not good for you to sit down a whole day. If you can move around 10 times in a day or as much as you can and be effective depending on what activity you'll do, is the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, agreed.
So, and also from a effectiveness, from a productivity perspective, change of scenery, change of music, change of depending on what you do, when you want to be more social, you want to be more just in your own world, it's the concept of the design in here is, I'm not interested in the design, I'm more interested in the functionality. And
I don't 100% believe that, because I think you love the design.
Yes, but what I spent most time on first is the functionality piece.
Right.
And making sure that the space caters for when you want to be really noisy, you can do that. And when you want to be just in your own world, focusing on your own, that you can do that too. And everything in between. Yes, the design matters, but it's more the functional design.
Have you ever found a piece that had just amazing functionality but looked like something out of, 1950s Australian home? Which wasn't a bad place. But
Good question. Probably the recliner is quite nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
You were asking a question about a couple of pieces. I'm just thinking there's 2 sofas, which is quite special in the club.
This one?
Area, yeah. There's 2 brown leather sofas, sort of vintage brown leather.
Yeah.
They were originally designed in 1932 in Italy, by a famous Italian furniture designer. And they are made by a friend of mine north of Florence, who is an architect. And he worked as an architect for many years. He designed a house for a famous director, and the director asked him to design furniture as well for the house, so the entire house and furniture. He loved the furniture so much that he started actually his own little carpenter shop and just doing furniture. And I worked with him for years, passionate about what he does, and he's been doing all the things at the reception. So he'll talk for hours about those pieces.
He's now local.
No, he's north of Florence.
He's north of Florence.
Yeah, but in a small workshop, not a factory. It's everything is made with a lot of passion. But the 2 sofas in there, I was sitting in his old house a year ago in these sofas, but the original ones from 1932 that was made for that house that he's inherited from his dad, who inherited from his granddad. And I said to him, what's the story of these couches? And he told me the story. They were designed for the villa in 1932. And by this and this designer, and I asked him, can you make me 2? I love them, they're amazing.
And here they are.
And here they are.
How beautiful.
And these are the first that he's made. So
here's the marketing challenge for you.
Yes.
And for Work Club, in a sense that, I lean in as soon as you start telling these stories. And Sophie's the manager of Work Club Melbourne, also told me stories as we walked around. I walked around this place for the first time, and I'm heightened at this point. I'm like, tell me more about where was the jetty in Denmark, or tell me more about those sofas, or that light, that interrogation. It's amazing. How do you communicate these stories on an ongoing basis? Obviously one-on-one, but you've got to get the people in here first. So how does the wider community start to hear about these stories, so much so that they want to come in and consider becoming a member?
So we're probably not very good at that,
right?
Because it's
because that's your clincher. The stories are the clincher.
Yeah, I think it's all word of mouth. So we don't advertise. We don't like that. And our growth in Sydney has been organic. It's taken probably longer than if we were more aggressive, but in some ways we kind of like to stay a bit under the radar and let the members
Incredibly
speak.
brave. I love it.
No, but let the members do the talking and sort of initially I will insist with new members, just give me 15-20 minutes of your time and I'll take you through on a quick tour and just explain some of the thinking that we've put into the different items in here. I mean, the steel partition, for example, behind you, is a Meccano set. It's completely custom made. Everything is just pieces of steel that we've made here locally, put together with brass connections, and the hours and the passion and the headache and the work that's gone into doing just the steel partition has been, incredible. But it's part of what we do and part of what we love. And I will spend 2 minutes just showing it to new members, and here's some of the stories, and if they want to hear more, they can hear more. But I really, it's just a supporting part. I think the functionality and the products is really the foundation, but what's most important is the diversity.
Whilst marketing isn't something that you overtly go and do, although you do, marketing's everything and everything is marketing, as I say, you do have an events strategy called, which I think is underpinned by, is it called the Florence Guild?
Yes.
Love the name. Hey? I just recently read The Agony and the Ecstasy, Michelangelo's biography. Amazing. Have you read that?
No, I haven't actually. No.
Gosh, it takes you through every street of Florence and then on to Rome and back again, and it's wonderful. But so the Florence Guild is a bit of a marketing play to get large numbers of people in on a regular basis?
Well, it's actually coming from my theory of around DaVinci. So that's the name, Florence Guild, is coming from there. And it started out as our attempt to, on a weekly basis, bring that diversity together, the members together, and try and have a platform for people to really learn from all those different perspectives. So in Sydney, it started with us putting someone on a chair, analog experience, no technology, in the middle of the room on a Thursday night, 6 o'clock. And that person would be, in some cases, a TEDx speaker or somebody really passionate, really strong about their topic, which could be education, politics, immigration, racism, sex, whatever. We've talked about a lot of different things. But we'll put somebody on a chair, really good at that topic, and then we'll ask them to start a conversation. And the hope was then that maybe you'll get a spark or an idea from that content, maybe the moderator or the wisdom of the room, where we will bring in the members, we'll invite the members in and limit it to about 60 people, but we will have that diversity and it will become that conversation, so it wasn't just a one-way presentation. And really to try and get the different perspectives out and hoping to create a few sparks and maybe some good friction as well. That's how it started. Members brought along guests initially, and some of those guests said, well, we'd like to actually join these talks and continue these conversations. And for quite a long time we said, no, it's for members only, until we decided in May last year.
Oh, he's given in.
Yeah, we're giving in, yeah. But we said, well, let's start a thinking membership, because it sort of got its own life. It wasn't, this is not... we're not defining it as an apolitical think tank or anything. It's just I just want to get out of the way and let the people sort of drive it and those conversations. But what we found was that it drove awareness, and there was people found a value from that awareness and connecting with other people, whether they disagreed or agreed. So we formally called it Florence Guild. And we now have that thinking membership where if you don't want to work from here, if you don't want to socialize from here, you can just come to those talks.
Fantastic.
And it's a separate membership. It gets people through the space, of course. Sometimes we allow guests through. So yes, it is a marketing strategy, you can say that, but it really is essential to the initial idea of how to not have people come together all the time, collaborating all the time. That's not what it's about. But 5-10% of the time, bring people together softly, provide a platform for people to interact and sort of get out of the way ourselves.
Soren, one last question. Since bringing the idea to life, and it's been 10 years in the making, and you're there now, you're in Sydney, you've launched in Melbourne, you've got affiliates in London and Copenhagen, or is it Hagen?
No, Copenhagen, Copenhagen.
Right. Oh, there you go. Well, I'm never going to get that. What's the most surprising or wonderful thing that's happened to you or the business since opening?
Good question. I'm still involved in other businesses I have, but my thought was I was probably going to go in this and at some point sort of step out. But I mean, for me, this is not work; it's a passion, and I want to spend all my time here. I think the weekends are a nuisance.
Good on you. Well, the line's been blurred so much that you can't decide between work and play.
My wife is not particularly happy with that, but it's. So it's been a wonderful experience meeting some great people.
Soren, it's a great story, and it's early on, so I look forward to talking to you 1 or 2 years down the track.
Thank you.
Well, team, that was Soren Trampedek of Work Club. You can find out all about Work Club over at workclubglobal.com. You can see just how beautiful it is over there. Hey, coming up shortly, I challenge business owners who openly say they don't need to do any marketing. But first, my top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Soren, thanks to Web Central's simple website solutions and Cornerstone Business Solutions, whose goal is to transform your business's profitability. Attention grabber number 1, be grateful for your failures. Yeah, sometimes they're the best thing that could happen to us at the time. Sometimes it's hard to acknowledge that, but I encourage you to reflect back on a time when you failed and you thought the sky was going to fall in, only to look back now and realise it was the best thing that could have happened to you. Attention grabber number 2, passion is the ultimate marketing. Past guest and passion expert Keith Abraham would agree on this. His big belief is that nothing truly happens until someone is passionate about something. Isn't that beautiful? Check out my chat with him if you're keen to get clearer on your passion and purpose. And attention grabber number 3, be selective with who you sell to, like Soren is. Now, I get the fact that not all businesses have this luxury and that this takes incredible courage. But being selective can pay off big time in the long term. Hey, what grabbed your attention? Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/315 and let me know. So, I often hear this quote, especially from those in the finance, real estate and IT industries, because I've spoken at a lot of the conferences for those industries of late. The quote goes like this: we're flat out. We don't do any marketing and we don't need any marketing. Close quote. Well, guess what? I don't agree with that. Let's break it down. We don't do any marketing. Oh, yes, you do. Not many businesses don't do any marketing because everything is marketing. If you've got a logo, a business card, a website, a slide deck, a brochure, then you do marketing. If you network, if you've got a voicemail message, write proposals, are active on social media, send quotes, or even have an email signature, then guess what? You do marketing. Now let's look at the second part of that quote. We're so flat out, we don't need any marketing. Well, first of all, congrats on having that much business. I hope you're making plenty of dough and selling to clients that you love to work with. And that's the key. As small business owners, we want to work with the right types of clients, right? Ones that give us joy, that make doing great work for them easy. Because if that isn't the case, then I'd suggest you start creating marketing that both attracts the right clients and helps those who aren't your ideal clients to self-select themselves out of doing business with you. Scary, huh? You could even go as far as having a section of your website titled, "We're not for you if," and then list all the attributes of those who you don't want to work with. Or you could take the more positive approach with a section titled, "We do our best work for," and then list all the attributes of your ideal client. Or you could do what Soren from Work Club does and implement an interview process where you both get to know each other intimately. I just had my interview with Soren, and guess what? I passed. Phew!
Timbo. Hey, it's Ben, Geelong Cable Locations. Mate, I know I speak to you nearly, every second day inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, but I want to make the effort right now just to say thank you. Thank you for everything you've done, mate. The podcast is unreal, but I've got to say the forum is bloody brilliant. I've been a member, a couple of years now, and I get so much out of it. You and the other members are in there that are in there all the time, every day, commenting, adding stuff. It's just great, mate. It is absolutely awesome. So thank you for seriously taking the effort to create it. I know it's a lot of work, but it makes it so much better for us. We love it in there. It's just, brilliant. So anyway, mate, you take care. No doubt I'll speak to you in a couple of hours in a forum again, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Hey, do you think Ben likes the forum? Oh boy, look, he's one very motivated business owner, is Ben, and a wonderful contributor inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. Ben, all I can say, mate, is thank you. Got a listener question. Stacey would be her name. She says, "Hey Timbo." G'day, Stace. A question in regards to video marketing. I have always posted my helpful marketing videos to my YouTube channel. Oh, I love it. I love helpful marketing. That's what my book's all about. I figure this is the best way to increase my SEO, as Google owns YouTube, correct? And I know you've told me that I am who Google says I am. Totally. Google do own YouTube, second biggest search engine in the world. Google love delivering video results, so you kind of want to be there, right? And if someone's searching for a business like yours, you want to be on page one. Stace goes on to say, however, with the increase in Facebook videos, and they sure have increased, and the way they play automatically in your news feed, that's annoying, are easy to view and share, should I be posting my videos exclusively to Facebook instead? Love the podcast, Timbo. Congrats on over 300 episodes. Stacey Morgan, Port Macquarie Performing Arts Office. Oh, I spoke up at a Port Macquarie event only a year ago. Maybe Stace was there. Now, I've gone and tapped old friend of the show. He's not old, but he's an old friend of the show and my co-host of some 80 episodes, Luke Moulton, to see whether he can answer this question. Lukey is a Facebook expert with a business that he calls Plankton. Here's what he had to say, Stace.
G'day, Stacey. It's Luke from Plankton Digital here, and just wanted to answer your question that you shot through to Timbo, just in regards to whether you should be posting videos to YouTube or exclusively to Facebook. I would say post them to both. Facebook is great for getting video views. However, YouTube is owned by Google, and Google loves to index their own content. So I'd be posting your videos to YouTube, making sure that you put a decent description underneath them and a link back to your website, but then go and post them to your Facebook page, to your Facebook page as well, and get engagement that way.
Oh, thank you, Lukey. Very short, sharp response. I must say I do concur, and so would past guest Bobby Edwards from Squatty Potty. Did you listen to that interview? It was a ripper. I interviewed him about a viral video that he'd created, which at the time had 65 million views. Now, here's the thing. 50 million of them came from Facebook. The other 15 million from YouTube. So that says something in itself, hey? We can wrap some numbers around that answer. Thanks for the question, Stace. Everyone else, if you've got a marketing conundrum, include it in a listener review on the Apple iTunes store. And guess what? I'll answer it. Yeah, no, I'll answer it. Well, that'll be the end of the show, I'd have to say. But don't worry, plenty of marketing gold coming your way in the weeks ahead. Next episode, we're joined by James Young, who's the owner of an Australian rock and roll institution called the Cherry Bar in Melbourne. Hey, be sure to check out cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au if the idea of drastically reducing your running costs makes you go, hell yeah! And webcentral.com.au who can help you avoid your website being a billboard in the desert. Until next week, I am Timbo Reid. Hey, thanks for listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.